Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day is going great. Mine is, and we have a really cool video. We're talking about a lot of things today. We're going to start off with the World Cup though. First, we have Team Sweden. They announced their roster. Then after that, we're talking about Kragie. He has dropped out of Team Denmark for the World Cup. Then XQC was streaming Team Canada's World Cup tryouts today. It was definitely very interesting. We're going to cover that. Then lastly, we're going to be talking about the Overwatch League playoffs a little bit. The maps were finally announced, guys. We're going to take a look at those and figure out which team has an advantage. So as I said, it's going to be a really awesome video. If you're new around here, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. If you love Overwatch, then this is the channel for you. Also guys, update on the house tour. I'm definitely going to do one of those. I got a ton of likes yesterday on that comment. So again, if you're hyped for that house tour, let me know down below. It'll probably come in a couple days after the house is a little bit more set up. It's pretty chaotic and a mess right now since we just got here. So stay tuned, boys, and now let's hop into this video. So to begin it, let's just go ahead and hop into the Overwatch Team Sweden World Cup roster. This was tweeted out earlier today. Presenting our 12 players for the Overwatch World Cup 2018. On tank, we have Swoosh and Reinforce. On off tank, we have Manitin and Nevix. Now, I think this is actually a pretty good combination of players, Swoosh being mainly the only Swedish main tank in the league. You know, he's a shoo-in. Unfortunately, he isn't one of the best in the world, but he'll do. After that, surprisingly, we have Reinforce, who hasn't had much professional play in a while. As we all know, we've seen him on the desk for the Overwatch League. It'll be interesting seeing him getting back into the groove. As for the next two players, we have Manitin and Nevix, both really solid off-tank players in the league. I'd say they're both in the upper half of the league. Manitin, probably the best player besides, say, a player on that roster. As for Nevix, very solid overall, consistent player for the San Francisco Shock. Never really had anything bad to say about him, so it's looking like a really good off-tank lineup and overall a solid tank lineup. Now moving on to the supports. This is a very interesting pickup. We have Graceful. Now Graceful played for Grizzlies in Contender Season 1 North America. Unfortunately, he got knocked out during the trial process. He was on off-tank though. And before his time on Grizzlies, he played on Splice with me last year, and he was a DPS player. Now, I know Graceful is extremely flexible. He can play DPS, he can play off-tank, he can even play support. He did it for Evil Geniuses. He's definitely one of the more well-rounded players in the entire world, but the unfortunate thing about that is he's never really been able to master a role. And I feel like he has least experience on support, so he could be good here, but he also could struggle a little bit. Nonetheless, he's a great player and he'll add a lot to this roster, whether it's in-game or outside the game. Moving on to the next player, we have Lude. Now, Lude played for Toronto Esports last year. He also played for a couple of Contenders trials and Contenders teams. Pretty solid. I don't know too much about him, to be honest. Last time I played against him, he was a Lucio player, so it's an interesting pickup. Moving on to the next two players, we have Chips Hyen, who will probably be a shoo-in for a starter. Obviously one of the most experienced players so far, and just overall is really good. Moving on to the last guy, we have Zebosai from Florida Mayhem, and I definitely think Zebosai is the better half of the supports from Florida Mayhem. Zupe, probably one of the worst supports in the league. I think Zebosai and Chips will be a decent combo. Now moving on to the damage players. Now moving on to the DPS players, we have Sharp. He plays for Optic Gaming in North America for Contenders. Pretty solid player. I watched some of his play over the last season, and I definitely think he's one of the biggest rising stars in all of Overwatch. Only 16 years old. I think he's definitely going to put on a show at the World Cup. Look out for him. Moving on to the next player, we have Snillo from the Philadelphia Fusion. Huge pickup here. Snillo, absolutely insane, especially if it's going to be a Tracer meta. If it isn't a Tracer meta, it'll be interesting seeing what he can play. We haven't seen too much else from him in the league. Moving on to the next player, we have Tavik from Florida Mayhem. I'd say a pretty solid DPS player, very well-rounded. He can play a lot of different characters. I have said in the past, I don't think he's one of the best DPS players in the world, but he is a solid one, and he'll definitely be helping out this Sweden squad. Moving on to the very last player on this team, we have IDDQD. Very interesting pickup here, guys. I was surprised to see this. I honestly even forgot IDQD was Swedish. Not too much to say about him. He didn't get any playtime in the Overwatch League for San Francisco. It'll be interesting seeing how well he does. And that's it, guys. The Swedish World Cup team. Let's go ahead and move on now Now moving on to the Kragie news, guys. Unfortunately, this was tweeted out earlier by Team Denmark. Kragie has decided to leave the 12-man roster, so we bring in Spokes Easy instead. If you guys don't know who Spokes is, he's an 18-year-old, he's Danish, he's peaked at 46.56, top 500 all seasons, ended number 9 in season 4. Not too much about him. He hasn't really played for any big teams, just somebody interesting coming in. And Kragie, wow, I don't know what to say about it. He really isn't enjoying his time playing Overwatch. Seems like he's going to look for a different type of career maybe. I don't know. He's been streaming a lot. And that's pretty much it, guys. F in the chat for Kragie. And let's go ahead and move on now and talk about XQC and the Team Canada trials. So these trials were actually very interesting. There was a blue team and there was a red team. On the blue team, we had Keller from Optic Gaming, Crimzo from Envision Esports, Shane, free agent player, formerly played for my team, Kongarna, in trials, ZZZA, formerly from Florida Mayhem Academy, Kevin, who actually won the open trial thing to play with all these guys. Pretty interesting, and he actually performed decently in these matches. Then Joel Meister from the Philadelphia Fusion. That was the blue team. It's decent, a lot of contenders players. Joe from the Overwatch League, he really hasn't played too much though. Then moving on to the red team, we had Note from Boston Uprising, Agilities from LA Valiant, XQC, you all know XQC, Surefour from the LA Gladiators, Rolf from the LA Gladiators Legion, and Bonnie from the Houston Outlaws. What? Talk about teams being a little unfair here, right? 4 Overwatch League players, XQC, a former Overwatch League player, and Rolf, who was on Team Canada last year and considered one of the best supports in all of Contenders. Versus, you know, some pretty decent Contenders players and a guy who's never really touched the stage in Overwatch League. Pretty stacked in favor of the red team. And this was easy to see in the matches as well because the red team completely destroyed the blue team. I think overall, out of 9 maps, the red team won 7 of them. And these 7 maps that the red team won, most of them were complete first hold stomps, like not even close at all. As for the blue team, they were able to pick up 2 maps. Those maps were very close, but as I said, the ones they lost, they got destroyed. Also, I forgot to mention this for the red team, Megachu was swapping in and out with Agilities. Usually when Agilities was in there, the red team would do a little bit better, but they would still win with Megachu. Obviously, Agilities, Surefour, they're just insane. They carried this team extremely hard. As for XQC, he definitely started off really shaky. I mean, for the first 3 to 4 maps, he was dying very early on in a lot of the team fights, making a lot of bad decisions, jumping in when he was told not to. And you know, you could see the frustration inside XQC. Lucky for him though, he did tap into his inner strength. He was able to bring it back in the last 3 to 4 maps. He played really strong, especially on the Orisa and Reinhardt. He had some huge plays. The good thing for him, his only competition comes from a guy named Shane. As I said, not too much experience. The last team he was on was Kongarna, and that was just a trials team. So it doesn't really take him playing amazingly to get in. He just has to be solid. Even though Shane did play pretty decent here, from the outside it did seem like he was doing a decent work for that team that was struggling really hard. So you never know. XQC's spot might be up in the air. I doubt that though. I think he'll definitely make this team, even with shaky play. So that's pretty much it for Team Canada in the trials, guys. I think it ran pretty smoothly. Just the only thing is, I feel like they should have maybe swapped it up a little more. You know, got XQC on the other team, swapped around Agilities and Surefour, because it did seem very unfair. Obviously, this is just one block that they streamed. Maybe they have played a lot more, and this is what they're kind of going with. Who knows? I'm not going to question the coaches and the community leads, but I would have liked to have seen more games with more diverse teams. Jane did announce that the full roster would be selected on July 1st, so we only got 1 day to wait. We'll see what they announce tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. Let's go ahead and move on now and talk about the Overwatch League playoffs because the maps were announced. Alright, so for in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the first best of 5 set coming up against the London Spitfire and the LA Gladiators. These are the maps that they will be playing in this first set. They start off on Game 1, Junkertown. Then Game 2, Lijiang Tower. Game 3, Kings Row. Game 4, Hanamura. Game 5, Dorado. Now, I did go through all of the matches that London and LA played throughout the entire season, and I looked if they played any of these maps. They played Junkertown against each other 1 time, and this dates all the way back to the preseason, December 7th of 2017, and the LA Gladiators did pick this map up. This was an extremely long time ago, and I wouldn't take too much away from it, but Gladiators did win the map. Moving on to the next one, Lijiang Tower. The London Spitfire and LA Gladiators played this map against each other twice in the Overwatch League. One, again, goes all the way back to December 7th in the preseason, where the Gladiators won 2-0. The second time they played Lijiang Tower goes back to March 10th, 2018, and the Gladiators once again won 2-0. And then in this same match, they also played Kings Row, and the LA Gladiators won this 2-2. It was a close map, but Gladiators pulled it off, and overall, the Gladiators, out of all these maps, these teams have only played 3 times on them. Gladiators won all of them. So, looking at that, doesn't look very good for the London Spitfire. Now, I know that's only a small handful of times they played on these maps, and they were also a long time ago, so let's go ahead and just look at their overall win rates on these maps. So, starting off on Junkertown, the first map, London Spitfire is 7-4, and they actually have the advantage over the London Spitfire in this one, who is 3-8. So, overall, London, better performers on Junkertown, could potentially go up 1-0, but take it with a grain of salt, doesn't mean everything. Moving on to the second map, we have Lijiang Tower. And well, the LA Gladiators, they're 10-2 on this map, guys. As for the London Spitfire, they're sitting at 7-7. So 50% win rate compared to an 80% win rate. I think we all know Gladiators have a huge advantage going into this map. Now moving on to Kings Row, we have the London Spitfire sitting at 3-8. Not the best. As for the Gladiators, they're sitting at 6-4. Much better than 3-8 there, possibly have an advantage here. Moving on to Hanamura, the fourth map, the LA Gladiators are sitting at 6-5. As for the London Spitfire, Hanamura is definitely their best 2CP map. They're sitting at 7-3 overall. Then, moving on to the very last map, Dorado, we have the London Spitfire sitting at 6-6, and the LA Gladiators sitting at 6-4. So this is really interesting looking at these maps. The London Spitfire has the advantage of 2 of them, and the LA Gladiators have the advantage in 3 of them. But that third map that the LA Gladiators do have an advantage over the London Spitfire in is the 5th map. So we could very well go to a 5th map, and it isn't that big of a margin. So judging off of the maps, this could be a really close match, and London actually might stand a chance. So you guys let me know down below who you think will win this based off of the maps. If you even think it means anything. If you don't think it means anything, let me know down below as well. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to tell me down in the comments. Also, be sure to drop a like on it. Subscribe to my channel for more daily Overwatch content. Thank you for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.